Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. Nice to see all you beautiful people here. Mark, how you doing? Rachel, Rahel, Radha Bhakti, welcome. Tom, welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. Alfonso, Julie, all the way from New York. Nice to see all you familiar faces. Christian, Rebecca, Spirit Soul. Not sure which soul this one is, but I love the background picture. Looks great. Alfonso, is this your first time to Thoughtful Thursdays?
Yes.
Welcome. Where are you joining us from?
Portugal.
Portugal?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It must be like 1 o'clock in the morning for you.
Midnight.
Midnight, okay. You know, I've been almost to every country in Europe except Portugal. I'm saving that. I also ran out of money when I was traveling, so that's my excuse. I'm saving it. But I've always wanted to visit Portugal. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Hari Sham, and we are here live from the sanctuary. Let me just do something here real quick. There we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Sorry about that. Okay. So for those of you who are here for the first time, like Afonso, welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. Just to tell you briefly about what we are a virtual community. We meet once a week. We discuss topics of spirituality, self-realization, psychology, positive thinking, any kind of tools or techniques that can help us cultivate the world inside of us. So we live in two worlds. We live in the world outside, and the world outside is interpreted by the condition of the world within us, the state of our mind, the state of our ego, the state of our being. And here at Thoughtful Thursdays, we're a sort of like-minded group of individuals who want to dedicate some energy and time to cultivating the world inside of us, using wisdom and techniques from Eastern traditions. We talk a lot about yoga, we talk a lot about bhakti yoga, we mention a lot of Eastern texts, we meditate. So the inspiration behind Thoughtful Thursdays is really the teachings of the bhakti yoga tradition, which is what I've been practicing for over 10 years. I was a monk in the tradition for 7 years. And some of our speakers practice this tradition. Some of our speakers are authors, mentors, life coaches. So we invite a variety of individuals to come and talk about these things. Sort of the purpose of the community is just to enliven one another with our realizations and this wisdom. So welcome. The way it works, Afonso, is we start off with brief introductions. Every week, 3 individuals, 3 brave souls step forward and introduce themselves to the community. We've been doing Thoughtful Thursdays now for over 8 months, and we had this realization that we all come together once a week, but we don't know a whole lot about each other, right? And so every week we invite individuals, and it's amazing the things you find out. For example, I found out last week that Keith, who's been coming for a few weeks, lives right here in Chicago. I had no idea. I'm in Chicago. So, you know, we can be in the same space for a long time and not really know one another, which is very disadvantageous, right, to cultivating, you know, relationships in this time of COVID. So we usually invite 3 individuals every week. 3 different people step up, introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about who they are, what's important to them in life, where they're at. Then we do a guided meditation, and then we're going to have a wisdom talk tonight, which is on the topic of forgiveness by Radha Bhakti, and she's online here right in the center of my screen. So welcome, Radha Bhakti, to Thoughtful Thursdays. So who would like to introduce themselves to the community today? Anybody would like to go? Should we go alphabetically? Afonso, your first time. You want to tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're at in life?
All right. Hello, my name is Afonso. I'm from Portugal. I'm 17, and I don't know.
What brought you to Thoughtful Thursdays? Why are you here tonight?
My friend, my English is so bad. Sorry, guys.
So far, it's pretty good, isn't it, guys? It's pretty good English so far. I mean, everything you say makes perfect sense. You're 17, you're from Portugal. Pretty good. Got that down.
And my friend introduced me to this, Sofia Simas. She said that she used to be here.
Okay. Referred by a friend.
What?
You were referred by one of your friends. Cool.
Yes. I know Adam. I don't know.
You know Adam. Yeah.
And I saw his Instagram
Okay.
about
Cool.
about so
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Thank you. You know, it's pretty cool. You're 17, you're already looking into spirituality. If I told you the things I was doing at 17, you would not believe it was the same person. So I am so impressed that at this young age, you're already interested in spirituality. I definitely took the long route. In America, Alfonso, we have a saying, taking the scenic route, which means you go the long way to figure out what you really need in life. So it's nice that at 17, you already figured out that spirituality is important. I had to do a lot of other things to realize the value of spirituality in my life. So that's impressive. Somebody here in the chat is introducing themselves. I cannot talk, my housemate is sleeping. Mark. Okay, well, hopefully you have fast fingers. You can type out a little introduction. I'll read it out to the community. Anybody else wants to go and introduce themselves to the community? Or should I just pick someone? What do you guys prefer? Let's see. Laz? Do you want to tell us about?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so my name is Lazarus. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm 17 as well. I got introduced to Thoughtful Thursdays by Adam, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I met him down in downtown Denver
Mm-hmm.
about 2 years ago. But yeah, ever since then, he's been keeping me updated with stuff that's going on with the program, I guess.
Nice. Laz, and I really wanted to tell you the reflection you shared. You remember a couple of weeks ago, you told us a little story about your friend? I still remember that. That really touched my heart, by the way. That was really powerful. Yeah. Thank you. Wow, no, it's nice to see all these young people who are interested in spirituality. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, anybody else? One more person. You know, one of my really good friends is online Madhava. He's one of the top yoga instructors in Chicago. He's personally taught, I don't know, hundreds of yogis, and his students have gone on to open 30 yoga studios in the Midwest. He's very successful, very brilliant, amazing yoga teacher. It'd be really nice if everybody got to meet him, actually. Madhava, do you want to introduce yourself to our community and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Harisham. Hare Krishna. Yes, I have a studio in Chicago, and right now not many people are coming, but we're just very happy to continue doing what we're doing. And I really appreciate what you're doing here. So thank you for letting me speak.
Give us a little more. Come on. You're not going to get away with just one line. You've had a very interesting life. You know that. You know you've had a very interesting life. Tell us a little more.
What are you interested in?
I don't know. Why did you decide to become a yoga teacher? Tell us that.
Because I think yoga and what we're studying here is a complete system.
Mm-hmm.
It's for every aspect of your life, everything you do. What we're studying here covers our thought, speech, and action.
Mm.
And it's really great to see people become open and healthy and more conscious. So I like helping people on that path. I think you're the same.
Yeah.
I think you like helping people too.
One of the cool things about Madhava is he goes every year to India for 3 weeks, and he takes people in a private, very, very intensive yoga retreat where they do Ashtanga yoga for 3 hours a day. They live in a very beautiful village in South India in Kerala, and they have training in philosophy. It's really amazing. So I encourage any of you, if someday the world comes back to normal, and if Madhava is willing to take few of us to India, then I would love to go with you 1 year and do this.
Yes, we'll do a combined trip to Vrindavan and to Kerala.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great, everyone. Well, welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays once again. Thank you, those of you who introduced yourself to the community. We'll now move into our guided meditation portion. Just to introduce our guided meditation for the day, let me ask some of you a question. How many of you online feel just information alone is enough to make a change in your life? Anybody here? Raise your hands if you feel that information alone is enough to make a change in your life. Does anybody feel that way? I see Tom's raised his hand. Keith. Sway is like a halfway there. Julie is like maybe, kinda, sorta. Anybody else? Bridget, she's like kinda, sorta. Coralie, you got to vote? No, not at all. She's like a definite no. She's not even the kind of sort of. She's like a definite no. Well, it's interesting, folks. Information alone is not sufficient to make a change. If that was, every single person who smokes cigarettes would have stopped smoking a long time ago. Every single bad habit that we have would be dissipated because we already know the answers to all our bad habits. Every single relationship issue that we have would simply be resolved because we already know that all it takes is say sorry and I love you and everything's going to be fine. So we have all the information at our fingertips. Yet we find that transformation or change can be sometimes quite challenging. The ancient yoga texts, particularly the Bhagavad Gita, some of the books that we study, they explain that the reason why change is so difficult, even though we know, is because our consciousness is quite narrow. And the whole process of yoga and spirituality is about expanding the state of our consciousness, or the state of our heart, if you want to put it like that. When you have powerful information that combines with an expanded consciousness, an expanded and more resilient heart, then that information can do something. For example, God forbid, one of my friends actually just got over COVID, and her immune system was really wrecked as a result of it, right? Now, if all of a sudden she starts taking these really powerful supplements and medicines and vitamins, her body is not ready to yet digest all of this, isn't it? So her body is weak. So even though she has this powerful nutrition, her body can't access the value in that powerful nutrition. And it's the same idea with transformation and change. We might know something, but to truly extract the benefit of that knowledge or the benefit of that wisdom, we need to expand our consciousness. We need to expand our heart. Does that make sense? Yes? Sort of? Yeah? Anybody? Can I get a hell yeah, a hell nah? Okay, Bridget, thanks. Thank you so much. So the entire system of Eastern spirituality puts a lot of emphasis on something called practice, right? The whole point of practice is things that we do on a regular basis that are going to positively impact our consciousness. And as Madhava just said, it's a life school, right? Eastern spirituality is a life school. It's not about just going to the temple once a week on a Sunday and saying, whatever you say, and then the rest of the week you're completely not mindful of who you are and what is your purpose in life, right? Eastern spirituality is a life school. So everything we do, the way we eat, the way we interact, the way we work, the way we use our money, the way we relate to others, the way we look at the world, all of that can be an extension of our practice, right? All of that can be an extension of our practice. And perhaps the most condensed practice that yogis practice in the Eastern tradition are twofold. One is the practice of meditation, which we do using mantras, and the other is the study of sacred wisdom as a daily practice. You study sacred wisdom. And what I'd like to do today in our guided meditation is do a sort of intensified meditation that will allow you to experience or bring you to experience a higher power in the universe. Now, some of you online may believe that there is a God, and some of you may not. That's fine. I'm not here to convince you either way, whether you believe in a God, whether you not believe in a God, whether you call it a different name, whether you call it the universe, whether you call it the light. That's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you should believe in, what you shouldn't believe in, right? What I can share with you is that if you meditate in a certain particular way, using mantras, using sacred sounds, you will experience the presence of a higher energy. Now, some people call that high energy God. Some people give it a name. Some people worship it in different ways. That is a very individual choice that depends on where your faith, where your experience will take you, right? But through the process of meditation, it is universally possible for each and any one of us to experience the presence of a higher light. Now, why are we doing that today? We're doing that today because if we want to make change in our life and transformation, we have to expand our consciousness. Our consciousness expands through practices, and the most condensed and the most, you could say, a very condensed form of practice is absorption in meditation. And when we have that experience, then we notice that our heart expands, and things that we weren't aware of, things we couldn't normally pay attention to, become more apparent to us. How does that sound? Guys want to have a deep experience of meditation? Yeah? Okay, cool. So before we begin, I request all of you to sit comfortably and get totally relaxed. Maybe take your hands up in the air and just drop them down. Just drop them down. Lift your hands up. Breathe in deep and plop. They fall back down to your knees. Again, up. Now take a look around your room. As you do that, I'm just going to play a little bit of flute in the background, some frequencies to help. Just take a look around your room, put aside your phone, put it on airplane mode if you need to. Get comfortable, maybe lift your shoulders up slightly, lift up your chest, fill it with air, and then relax your shoulders, drop them back. Just breathe in, raise your chest, and relax your shoulders and drop back and breathe out. Now I request you to kindly lower your chin to your chest and gradually close your eyes. As you lift your head back up to center, make a promise to yourself to approach stillness. Your mind might still be thinking about the things you did today, the experiences you might have had. They leave emotional echoes in our consciousness. Just watch that emotion, watch that activity, and just let it walk out of your mind. Just like a person walks out of your room, let that emotion, let that experience walk out of your mind. Let it go. Let it go. Let the day go. Bring your awareness to the sound, the frequency. Let it enter into your ears and your body. Now breathe gently, not forcefully, gently. Bring your awareness to the part of your body where your nostrils meet the air. Be grateful for the gift of life, how mysterious it is that we get to be alive in a world where there's so many things that are not alive. We get to be alive, we get to be conscious, we have a mind, we have an identity, we can think, we can ask questions, all because we're breathing, we have life. Travel with the oxygen that enters your body to the different parts of your body. Travel to the ends of your toes, the inner chamber of your heart, inside your lungs. Identify with this air, this life-giving breath that travels throughout the body. It's a powerful energy. It's one representation of the divine. It carries life in it, the air, the oxygen. It sustains your life, sustains the life of numerous living entities. And this energy is one aspect of the divine manifesting in the world. As you breathe gently, allow yourself to gently come to the area of your heart. And in the area of your heart, in the eye of your mind, visualize a gentle light, almost like a candle flame. According to the ancient yoga texts, the heart is the seat of consciousness, the seat of life. Stay in this space. I will stop talking for a few seconds so you can listen to the sound and just situate yourself in the chamber of your heart as this bright light. Now listen to the words of the Gita, an ancient sacred text where the divine explains the mystery of how he's present in this world. He says to Arjuna, "O Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread." Visualize in the eye of your mind a pearl necklace. You might see pearls floating before you, but you may not see the thread that upholds everything. In the same way, there is a divine energy that permeates this world, permeates this universe, that allows the sun to rise, sustains life. This energy is very beautiful. In all ancient spiritual traditions, God is described as beauty and love. So take a moment now to connect with this higher energy through the form of a prayer, a simple prayer. I am divine, and so are you, and we have a relationship. A simple prayer. I am divine, and so are you, and we have a relationship. As you reflect upon these words, feel the energy of the divine rush into your hearts and embrace you. God is the embodiment of love, the love that we're all looking for, the love that we're looking for in every relationship, but that love is universally available. All we have to do is look within. Allow yourself to be embraced by this energy, carried by it. This secret energy that is like string, upholding the pearls of this material world, hidden from view, but ever present. Remember your simple prayer. I am divine and so are you, and we have a relationship. Stay in this space. If your mind is again drawn back to the world, then bring your awareness to the sound or your breath. And if you can, bring your awareness back to your heart, the region where the soul lives. And feel your connection with divine energy, which sustains the planets, sustains our life. The very ground you walk on is sustained by this energy. Now we will chant Om 3 times. The sacred scriptures explain that God is beyond words, beyond definition, and he can be approached through the most subtle element, which is air and sound. Om is the sound of the universe, is a divine mantra that expands our heart and our consciousness. I will chant it once on my own. I will inhale and chant Om on my own, and then we will chant it together 3 times as a community. When you take the breath in, try to fill your entire body with air. With the out breath, let the sound of Om vibrate throughout your mouth, your upper body, your heart, your lungs. And when you take the in breath again, try to feel the vibration resting within your body as you chant Om one more time. So I will chant once on my own, and then I will invite all of you to do it with me. I invite you now to chant with me. Take a deep breath in. Remember on the out breath to chant Om and let the vibration vibrate throughout your body. Inhale deeply, fill your lungs with air. Take a deep breath in once again, fill your lungs entirely with air. We'll do it just 2 more times. This time when you chant Om, let the sound begin from your abdomen, rise up to your lungs, come out through your throat. Let it come from deep inside of you, and really let it out. No one's going to judge you. No one's here to watch you. Really become one with the sound. Take a deep breath in. One last time, deep inhale. Stay in this precious space for a moment. Through the power of sound, you have made a connection with the divine. Feel that presence. Experience the clarity of mind, the peace that resides within you, which you can access at any point through the practice of meditation. Be grateful that you had this experience. Be grateful for everyone else who supported you through this experience. You cannot do this alone. Bring your palms together in namaste. Lower your chin to your chest. And as you inhale, gradually open your eyes. Return back to Thoughtful Thursdays. My one piece of suggestion or advice to all of you is, if you found this practice powerful, then please try to do this on your own in the mornings, at nights. And as you do it more and more, you'll definitely go deeper and deeper in your practice. There's other mantras that we chant in the Bhakti tradition, but Om is sort of simple for the sake of a virtual class. Hopefully someday all of us will be together in one space, in one room, and then I can teach you more mantras, share with you even more about the practice of meditation. So we'll take a few reflections, if anybody wants to share, and then we'll pass the mic over to Radha Bhakti, who will enlighten us on these signs of forgiveness. Anybody brave enough to share their realizations, reflections? Well, you don't have to be brave, rather just be willing to talk. There's no braveness required. Go ahead, Sway.
Hi. This is why I don't wear makeup here. I always cry. It was just very beautiful. I decided to do my the first part of Thoughtful Thursdays outside because it's so beautiful here in Arizona. And when I was doing it, I actually got startled because I have hummingbirds that like are in my feeders and stuff that come through, and so it like scared me. But then when I opened my eyes and I saw these two hummingbirds, and then I shut my eyes again and was really right back in it, and I could hear them fluttering like the whole time through it, and it just made me feel so like, I don't know, just like so connected and so like so honored that like we are actually a part of all this. Like we're all threaded together. Like I could hear like the vibrations of like their wings, and like I could feel it too though. Like it was so weird. Like usually I could just hear it, but I could feel it. And you know, I've been going through a lot of personal growth recently. Well, a lot of growth recently, and it's been pretty difficult. And again, I always tell people like this is a place that I feel like grounded, and I feel like really brings me a lot of peace. And it was just so very beautiful tonight. Like I feel so lighthearted tonight, and I haven't felt that in a really long time. I think the only other time I did feel like that was the other day when I did sing that Krishna from the other Thoughtful Thursdays.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can do that more. You guys do this more. Like it makes such a difference, and it really does. Like there's so much crap, but there's so much crap in this world, and just to sit down and just find the stillness and find the peace and hear the beauty. Like I can hear like the garbage trucks and my kids playing and everything going on, but I still felt really deeply connected. And I hope you guys got to feel that too.
Thank you so much, Sway. I think you stole everybody's reflections because you said it all. And it was so beautiful and so complete. Mark says, you weren't on your own there, Sway. I cried too this time. I don't know why I make people cry every time, but hopefully I'll. Emily says, this is the same reflection as the other weeks. I get surprisingly deep into the meditation here at Thoughtful Thursday than I do on my own. Any suggestions to deepen my practice without a group? The only way to deepen your practice without a group is to practice. There's really no way to get better at something than to just do it. Yeah. But thanks, Emily, for sharing that. We'll take one more reflection because the clock's ticking and I don't want to. And Julia, go for it. Oh, Jose also raised his hand. Okay, we'll take the two J's. No, we'll take the two J's and then we'll move on. Julia, you go first.
Well, really quickly, I've never tried. This was a new mantra of meditation for me with the I am divine, so are you, and we have a relationship. I just kind of let the weight of the words sit with me. And I felt such a calm just like wash over me. It was very strange, I guess, because I've been very tense in the sense that I've kind of felt off kilter the last day or so, kind of in the same boat as Sway. Lots of healing happening big time. So it was nice to be able to come back to that centered place. And I guess I forget how easy it is to find that space and to reconnect with it. So I guess I'm just thankful for this experience. That's all.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. And just real quick comment based on what you just said. I really appreciate your comment because as I started my meditation, my point wasn't to try to convince you that there is a God, there isn't a God, to argue with you about your philosophy and all of that, but just to show you that if any one of us allows us to feel that, okay, there is some divineness in existence, we will feel the weight of our material life kind of just lift. That's the promise of the yoga tradition, that if you discover your relationship with the divine, then that's the one solution to all of our problems, you know? So, and that experience is undeniable, right? Whether you believe in this or that, that's not my point here. You know what I'm saying? But the experience that you generate by doing the meditation, that's universal. Anybody can have that experience, right? And it's very powerful. Jose, is this your first time here, by the way, brother?
It is.
Okay, welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. Hear you very well. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I actually reached out to join the Thoughtful Thursdays a while back, and then I got lost and forgot all about it. But Adam, who is here, actually reminded me at the last minute. Hello. I had a day per se, and very ironic that I was in the midst of cleaning my room and I was overthinking because more often than not, the ego will get ahead, and with the ego comes situations like anxiety and depression and whatnot, but more of anxiety than anything. And this was kind of a nice like snapback, especially when you said to be thankful for this moment. I often forget to be thankful for what I do have. And I often forget to be thankful for how quickly and easy it is to be able to snap into that gracious space that I could tell would have been here if I had joined earlier. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being grateful for being grateful.
Yeah,
We will now, yeah, of course. And welcome to your first Thoughtful Thursdays. It's great. I'm glad you're here. Before we start our tonight's wisdom talk, I just want to make a quick, very, very brief plug about something. Just so you know, just so some of you may already know this, we have a retreat coming up this weekend, the Living as a Lotus retreat, 2 days of workshops, classes. We've organized a host of some really amazing. There's going to be 4 wisdom talks, 2 guided meditation sessions, a yoga asana class on Saturday night to help you relax and go to sleep peacefully, mantra music chants, a session on Ayurveda, which is ancient Indian medicine science for how to balance your body and mind. It's just a lot of really cool stuff. This poster is on Adam's Instagram page, and you can check out the link that will also be posted on his Instagram page, right? And you can check out the schedule through that link. So I'll post the link in the chat box as well. But please do join us if you can. Even if you can't attend every single I think it'll be impossible except me and Adam for all of you to be there for every one of those 8 events, right? We have to be there because we're the hosts, but I think just logistically it's impossible to be there for every single one. But even if you can make it to like half the retreat or a third, I guarantee you it's going to be an invaluable experience. Our speakers have been preparing their presentations for weeks, by the way. That's what makes it kind of special, is we set this up weeks ago, and they've been working on their presentations and their content for a while. So they have some really deep things to share with everyone. But it's the art of practical enlightenment, right? The lotus grows in the water, but doesn't get wet. That's the idea that the Gita presents, how to be like a lotus. You live in this world, but you are not wetted by the world, so to speak. How do you live in that kind of balance? So we'll learn a lot about that this weekend. So please do check out Adam's Instagram page, where you will find more information, a link to register and all of that. So yeah, I invite all of you to join us if you can. Okay. With that, I would like to welcome Radha Bhakti, our speaker for the night. I'm sorry I ran a few minutes over. Please forgive me. I took away some of your time, but feel free to carry on with your presentation as normal. Radha Bhakti is joining us from New York. Anybody else from New York online? Anybody online from New York City? Julia, that's right.
I'm from New York as well.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So a couple of New Yorkers online. So Radha Bhakti, take it away.
Thank you, and hi everyone. I'm actually coming to you today from Toronto, Canada. I'm with my parents. I took this opportunity of COVID to somehow make it across the border and come to Canada to hang out with some family. So I'm so grateful to be here with you, Hari. That was such a lovely meditation. Also really relaxed me and calmed my nerves as well. So thank you so much for that. And again, thank you to all of you for having me, and welcome to Jose and Afonso and everyone else who's here for the first time. Thank you so much. I wanted to speak to you all today about forgiveness because I think forgiveness it's an important topic for each of us. And I think it's a topic that we will all grapple with, if not already in our lives, whether we are in a position to forgive or to be forgiven. And I've certainly found myself in both of those situations. And I wanted to just learn more about it. And so that's why I was like, the best way to learn is to research, to try to figure out how to share with other people. So in preparation for this talk, I listened to a couple of classes by 2 Bhakti monks. Their names are Radhanath Swami and Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And I just wanted to say that off the bat, because if anything that I say today is inspiring for you, I just want them to have the credit, because they're both just exceptional speakers and prolific writers about this and so many other topics. So as Hari mentioned, we'll be speaking from the tradition of Bhakti, or Bhakti Yoga also as it's known. But of course, this is not an imposition on anyone. This is just a way of sharing from this tradition that's actually incredibly inclusive and non-sectarian. So just also wanted to say that off the bat. And what Bhakti has in common with so many traditions as it relates to forgiveness is that I'm sure we've all heard this expression that to forgive is divine. And I was reflecting really on that point, and why is it considered to be a divine quality to be able to forgive? And I realized that sometimes forgiveness is incredibly difficult, and yet it is essential for our spiritual growth and our progress. And actually, one of the things that Bhakti Tirtha Swami says is that if we can let go of a grudge, that actually it will have ripple effects on the entire world. So that grudge you have against, maybe it's a parent or a sibling or a friend or just somebody in your life, the ability to let that go can literally affect the world, because the way we behave in the world, again, has ripple effects that can go across borders. So if I can just ask you all to take a moment to just think of a person who has wronged you. Think of a person who has maybe treated you poorly, maybe betrayed you, maybe cheated you. And maybe think of a person that you've had to forgive in the past, or maybe you want to forgive, or maybe you don't want to forgive, but somebody who you think of when this topic of forgiveness comes up, and somebody that you need to forgive. And if you can't think of someone, then I would challenge you and say that I don't think you're going deep enough. So try really hard to think about somebody that maybe you need to forgive, and just meditate on that person for a moment. So, according to the ancient yogic texts, we are currently in a time called the age of Kali. And this age of time is characterized by a lot of the things we're seeing in the world today. There's a lot of betrayal, there's famine, there's drought, there's natural disasters. Again, people can be rude to each other. People feel exploited by each other. People feel exploited by the government. It's an intense time, according to the yogic scriptures or the yogic texts. But it also says that there's like this bright shining light that we're going to talk about that puts us in an advantageous position for being present on earth during this time. But again, it's just bound to happen where we'll feel betrayed, or maybe we might even be the ones who betray someone else. And it's actually said that when we are in this position of when we're not feeling loved, or when we're feeling forsaken by someone, or when we're having this inability to forgive, or we're holding grudges, we're actually 10 times more susceptible to chronic diseases, including cancer, diabetes, hepatitis. And in fact, it's something like 80% of all diseases are connected to stress. And of course, this feeling of betrayal is extremely stressful. And so Bhakti Tirtha Swami, one thing he also says that I really appreciate is that he says is when we're unable to let go, we're actually allowing whatever you did to me to happen over and over and over again. Let me explain that to you. Because as we become sort of fixated on this grudge, or this idea that we can't forgive somebody for, something really subtle happens. And that is that we actually become attached to it. What I mean by that is that sometimes it can happen that we become attached to being in this position of a victim. So why can we become attached to being a victim? Sometimes it's because it makes us feel superior. matter what country they come from, what religion they identify with. Just make sure everybody knows that God loves them and that they can cultivate, again, that relationship with the divine by chanting this one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Nitai and Haridas were literally, almost like missionaries going around telling people. They saw that there was so much suffering in the world and they wanted to just help people find peace. And so they were trying to spread this message. And eventually they met these two brothers, Jagai and Madai. Now these two brothers were coming from actually a lovely family, but they had some really bad association and they ended up just becoming horrible criminals, and criminals that were just feared in the entire world. They did really, abominable things. So Nitai, again, listening to Chaitanya's words that, don't discriminate. It doesn't matter what kind of person it is, go up to them and help these people find peace. So Nitai approached them with folded hands like a beggar. And he said, please hear my words. Please chant these sacred mantras. Chant Hare Krishna. You're in danger of maybe going to hell because of all of these crimes that you've committed. But if you chant these sacred mantras, you have the opportunity to have peace of mind and also just to reach the perfection of your life. And so these two brothers, these criminals, Jagai and Madai, they were just furious. They didn't want to hear this message. And so they chased Nitai and Haridas away. And so Nitai, out of the compassion in his heart, he decided to approach them again. And he said, please reconsider my plea. I actually feel for you, you're going to suffer because of your own activities. Eventually this is going to catch up to you. Please listen to what I'm saying and try to chant, this mantra, Hare Krishna. And once again, they were just so angry. And Madai, imagine it's explained that at this time, imagine somebody who's 8 or 9 feet tall, super massive build and this big guy, this big dude that's just this horrible criminal. He picks up this pot and he just whipped it at Nitai's head. And I'll say, according to the Bhakti tradition, I mentioned to you that Chaitanya is, a form of God according to the Bhakti tradition. And Nitai is also another form of God as well. So this is some guy, some horrible criminal that just whipped this pot at, in the Bhakti tradition, we consider this to be, God, and whipped it at his head. So Nitai's head starts to bleed and there's blood that's just dripping off of his forehead and soaking his clothes, drenching his clothing. And in this particular state, Nitai said to Jagai and Madai, I don't mind what you did to me, but it just breaks my heart to see how much you're suffering. Because you're causing so much suffering to other people, I know that you yourself are suffering. So please just consider my plea and remember your relationship with God and that he loves you. So with that, Jagai, the brother who didn't throw the pot, the other brother, his heart became transformed in that moment. And he just realized, wow, this man is so compassionate and kind. But Madai, the one who threw the pot, had this big ego. What? I whipped this thing at this guy's head and he doesn't want to die. And on top of that, he's still trying to be preach to me. He's still trying to say, tell me to change my ways, whatever. And he, picked up another pot and was about to whip it at his head again. And Jagai actually stopped him. And he said, please don't do this. Can't you see that this man is a saint? And so, sorry, what does that say in the chat? Did I just see?
An orb over Radha's right shoulder.
That's a light in my parents' basement. Nothing fancy. It's one of those, no, definitely not. So anyway, so Chaitanya at this time, so Madai is about to whip this thing at Nitai's head, and Chaitanya arrived on the scene. And again, for one moment, Chaitanya forgot that he was, again, according to Bhakti, this form of God who was there to spread peace and compassion. And for a moment, he forgot that. And for a moment, he was just I'm going to kill this person who is trying to kill my brother and somebody who's trying to be kind and somebody who's so faithful to me. I'm here to protect him. And so he was ready to pounce on Madai, but Nitai came in between them. Nitai came in between them and he said, please, Chaitanya, just remember that we're not here for that reason right now. We're here to transform people's hearts. Everyone in this age of Kali, so this particular time frame that we're in now, it's going to be like these two people. And we can't go around like just killing everyone. You know, we're here to give forgiveness and transform hearts and give compassion and grace to people. And Jagai actually saved my life. Jagai was the one who stopped Madai from trying to kill me. So out of immense gratitude, Chaitanya on the spot said to Jagai, you have my full forgiveness and grace and you know, my compassion, and you know, you have all of my love. And at that moment, Madai also changed. His heart changed and he begged for forgiveness. And he said, you know, Chaitanya, I just realized, you know, who you and your brother are and Nitai are. You're so compassionate. Can you please also forgive me? And Chaitanya said, you know, it's one thing if you attacked me, but you attacked my devotee. You attacked Nitai, and his body is more dear to me than my own because he is so dedicated to loving me and being of service to me by showering compassion and peace of mind to others. And there's nothing that makes me happier than somebody who, on my behalf, is trying to make other people happy. So if I can't forgive you unless he forgives you, if you ask him for forgiveness and he forgives you, then I will give you my forgiveness as well. And then as the story goes, Madai asks for forgiveness, he gets it, and everybody lives happily ever after. And actually these two criminals completely transformed and became great lovers of God. So in this tradition of bhakti, which I had the really wonderful fortune of growing up in, we hear this story a lot. You know, I grew up hearing this story often. And it's actually, I went through it very briefly, but there are so many beautiful details and nuances to this story. But I wanted to keep it brief. But the emphasis when telling this story is always about how God is so forgiving, and, you know, think about all the things that we've done and how God is so forgiving to us. But even as a little girl growing up and listening to this story, I was always wondering, like, you know, that's really cool and amazing that, you know, Chaitanya was so forgiving and Nitai was so forgiving, and they just like awarded their compassion and, you know, mercy and grace onto these horrible criminals. And that's great. But what about the people that they wronged? What about like the guy whose house they robbed or the woman whose house they put on fire? Like, what about them? What about their victims? And where's the justice for them? Like, it's not fair that, you know, I mean, this guy was trying to kill Nitai and asks for forgiveness, starts to chant Hare Krishna, and then Nitai is like, you're cool, don't worry about it. You know, how are the victims supposed to feel about that? Have you ever felt that way before? That, you know, somebody wronged you and they kind of got away with it? You know, I have felt like that a few times. And I just remember just feeling like this huge sense of injustice. And, you know, in the Bhakti tradition, you know, I believe in God, and the most common name that I call God is Krishna. And I remember thinking, like, Krishna, what about me? Like, I get that you're merciful and, you know, you have all this grace and compassion, and that's wonderful. But hello, like, this guy totally screwed me over. How could he just get away with it? How can you let him? Why don't my feelings matter? And I struggled with that for years. And, you know, in the Bhakti tradition, we also have this concept of karma. And so I could even theoretically, you know, coach myself about, yeah, you know, maybe at some point I did something to deserve this, or like, you know, what goes around comes around, something will happen to him or whatever. But you can't rationalize in those situations when you're feeling emotional and you're feeling hurt and you're feeling just like, how could this happen to me? And I really, really struggled with it. And I even struggled with my relationship with spirituality and God when this happened, when I felt immensely betrayed, and then that person just like, you know, ostensibly just moved on and everything worked out in their life and everything was wonderful for them. And so, you know, I continued on. But then years later, something happened in my life where it was me. I unintentionally hurt someone's feelings in a way that, once again, it was intentional, but I should have known better. And I went through this phase where, for the first time in my life, I felt like I couldn't look myself in the mirror. It's like, how can I have done that? How could I have hurt this person? How could I have not thought that my behavior would have affected this person and hurt them? And my eyes could water right now when I think about it. And in the Bhagavad Gita, this other yogic text that Harisham referenced, Krishna is the speaker of the Gita. And he says in Sanskrit, he says, Kshara Sarvani Bhutani. He says, in this world, in this material world, every living entity is fallible. So what does that mean? So often, again, when I've heard the story over and over, the speaker often says that all of us have these little jagai and madais in our hearts. And I'm just like, whatever, I'm a good person. I'm not going to be a criminal. I'm not going to set somebody's house on fire. I'm not going to go kill someone. I'm not going to do any of these things. So it's like a nice feel good story. But then it happened where it was like, wow, I hurt someone's feelings. And again, it was unintentional, but I was capable of hurting someone. And so maybe we consider ourselves to generally be moral, to generally be good people. But according to the tradition of bhakti, we've actually been in this material world for a really, really, really long time. We have been here for several lifetimes, according to this tradition. And in those lifetimes, we weren't always moral. We've been here long enough that we weren't always, we've evolved. The fact that there are 34 people on this call right now on Thoughtful Thursdays listening to a talk about spirituality, it's because we've worked really hard according to the tradition of bhakti. We've worked for lifetimes to get to this point. And every single person on this call is incredibly special. It's not a coincidence. It's not like, Afonso, you're so sweet. Like, yeah, my friend referred me, so I came. Like, there's something much more going on in the background that, you're such a special soul. Everybody here has evolved to this point where we're ready to talk about these kinds of things. And so that we have evidence that we haven't always been moral. Like, I remember, sometimes you hear, I heard a speaker once, actually one of the speakers at your retreat this weekend, Jay Jagannath, he was giving a talk and he was like illustrating the same point. And he was saying we're in New York City. So he's like, you ever go on the subway and you think somebody is so close to the line and you're like, what if I just push them like that just in a second, like that guy, or that guy's really, really close to somebody could easily just push him and he could just fall and die or break his head or whatever. Stupid thoughts that cross our minds. Of course, we would never act on. But the fact that those thoughts are there is evidence that we've been exposed to this kind of thing, whether it's through media or maybe our own behavior in previous lives, once again, according to this tradition. So the point of me saying this is, don't think that one day you or someone you love won't be in the position of needing to be forgiven. Because one day it will be you or somebody that you love. So in the beginning of this talk, we asked you to think about somebody that you needed to forgive, but now have to think about somebody that maybe you should be getting or begging forgiveness from. So go deep into your heart and think about someone. And once again, if you can't think of someone, you're not digging deep enough. And I'll tell you why. If you're struggling to think of someone, it's because we currently live in this world where, I don't know if you've heard this term, pop psychology, but what you see on Instagram, the cool quotes and some of them are amazing. I don't want to discount them, but some of them are pop psychology, and pop psychology tells us to Marie Kondo our lives, and if it doesn't give me joy, then to walk away from it. And of course, there's some truth to that, but what we don't internalize is accountability. So if I hurt somebody's feelings and I'm trying to apologize, but that person isn't forgiving me, you know what? I'm going to walk away. It doesn't emphasize accountability. Pop psychology tells us, just let it go, walk away. This person isn't making me feel good, walk away from that relationship. And sometimes there is truth to that, but more often than not, this is a situation that is occurring so that we can look inside and try to free ourselves of any of the qualities that we have that might not be conducive to spirituality, might be hurtful to others, and so on. So this pop psychology is yet another sort of material paradigm that spirituality kind of flips on its head. There are so many of those. So again, in my situation, this, for the first time in my life, I was, so many spiritual traditions emphasize this concept of humility. And, I always thought I understood, and, I can be humble. It's certainly I need to work on being more humble, and I can also have like a massive ego. So like I understood, but this is when I really understood what it means to like, go before God or the divine or the universe and feel like, wow, I'm not sure if I'm worthy of your forgiveness, just feeling so bad for myself. And in that time, in that moment, when I was able to face God in my raw, authentic, vulnerable state and say like, hey, I did something wrong and I need your forgiveness, I can say without a doubt that at that time, that was when my spiritual growth was unparalleled. And that experience was the single biggest catalyst in my spiritual life. So the experience of facing myself, apologizing to the person, asking that person for forgiveness, that person actually wasn't able to forgive me for 1 year. And after 1 year, the forgiveness came. And now we're actually like amazing. We're amazing with each other, and we're friends, and I love this person loves me, and I'm in the clear karmically. But for 1 year, it was something I just felt tremendous guilt and shame. And I just want to say that guilt and shame can be debilitating, or we can choose to, instead of Marie Kondoing the guilt and shame, like I'm just going to get rid of it, face it, deal with it, and use it as a catalyst for growth. And I just want to say one side note, we can't do that unless we have some help from a mentor, from a parent, from a spouse, a partner, just somebody to help you do that. It's really hard. We can get really much into the depths of that shame and get into dark places. So we need some help and assistance to do that. So in my situation, I can't be happy that I hurt someone, but I also can't regret that I had that experience, because once again, it was the single biggest catalyst of my spiritual growth, to walk through that fire of shame, to ask for forgiveness, to be accountable. So again, these experiences are opportunities to grow. And so we can't be afraid to face it. And one of my friends, during that time I was speaking to him about this, his name is Rasnath, and he and I were just kind of having a tea. And, he said something that really stuck out that I wanted to share with you. He said that when you're in the position to forgive someone else, it comes with this sense of moral superiority, right? Like, how could you do this to me? Or how, I could never do that to someone. And so there's a subtle sense of moral superiority when you're in the position to forgive. And maybe there's even a part of us that enjoys that moral superiority, just like we talked about. And it's actually like hand in hand with being a victim. If you choose to be a victim and not able to forgive, again, you have that sense of superiority that like, I could never do this. How could you do this? And you can come to be comfortable in that position, enjoy that, like that somebody is begging for forgiveness. And it's a very slippery slope. But when you're the one who needs to be forgiven, any sense of entitlement or moral superiority just goes out the window. And that is the time that we are in need of the grace or the compassion or the mercy of the divine. In my case, seeking that compassion and grace from God. So sometimes I'm reflecting on like, how could you be so merciful or kind and forgiving to this person who hurt me? And then suddenly it was like, oh my goodness, thank you, Krishna and the divine, or whoever, Allah, Jehovah, thank you for forgiving me. I needed it. And after all, we don't love God, those of us who believe in God, we don't love him because he's just. We love him because he's kind. So, and Radha Swami also says that compassion and mercy don't concede to the principles of justice. So compassion and mercy are superior to the principle of justice. And that's true for us as well. Okay, so these are some of the points that I really wanted to bring out today in terms of reflecting on, again, why it's important for us to be forgiving to others, but also why it's so important for us to seek forgiveness from others, because it's so important for our spiritual growth. So I'd like you again to just think about for a moment the person that you need to forgive. Okay, have to think about that person and just think about some of these things that I got from these talks and some of my own experiences. So just have to think about, did I have any fault in the situation? Is there any way that I can have empathy for the offender? What if I put myself in their shoes? Would I see suffering and pain the same way that Nitai saw it in Jagai and Madai? Does the offender have any good qualities? Is there a silver lining to what happened? And how does it benefit me to hold on to this grudge, if at all? So while we're thinking about that, it's also really important to note that forgiveness does not mean that, hey, you can use and abuse me anytime and you're going to get away with it. You know, it doesn't mean that what the person did to you is okay. It means that you're making a choice for yourself not to let the grudge control you and take hold of your life. And you're potentially liberating another person from that guilt and therefore helping them in their own spiritual path. Because just as much as it's important for you to forgive them, it's also important for them to be forgiven by you. Because again, according to the tradition of Bhakti, all of us are loved by God. You know, he or she doesn't want to see us being offended by anyone because he feels protective, but he also feels love for the offender. And so he wants us to, or she wants us to sort this out as well. So now think of a person that you may be offended and that you need to seek forgiveness from. Try to go deep into your hearts and come up with a plan to ask for that forgiveness. We don't want to be that patient on our deathbed that thinks about it. Think about this. Let me ask you it this way. God forbid something is going to happen to you tomorrow. Who is the person that you're going to think, damn, I should have asked that person for forgiveness? That's still in my mind. Know that it is so important for your spiritual life. Whether or not the forgiveness comes, it is integral for us to ask. Because again, we don't want to die having a grudge or with somebody having a grudge against us. So please learn from my experience and know that this can be an opportunity for a tremendous growth if we can take ownership and responsibility, if we stay accountable, if we ask for forgiveness, and we could even do that in writing or in person. Be patient and willing to wait for that forgiveness to come. And if you're a praying person, you can pray about it. The power of prayer is not to be underestimated. And just don't miss out on this opportunity to grow exponentially in your spiritual life. And one of the things that the Bhakti tradition says is that, you know, there are situations when maybe it's just not possible to ask for forgiveness. And so the Bhakti tradition teaches us that if it's not possible, then do what you can to be of service to that person. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. I know we have about just under 15 minutes for reflections or questions. So I'll open it up to all of you, unless Harisham, you wanted to say something first.
Well, I was, yeah, I mean, I always have something to say, but I'll keep it short because I want to hear what others have to say. But I really appreciate the angle you took, which is, you know, initially I thought your presentation was going to be about how do we cultivate forgiving others. But I love this angle you introduced, which is that we also, there's inside of us the potential to hurt other people. And that might catch us by surprise sometimes. And we are also sometimes in need of forgiveness. That was a really powerful angle that you introduced. I never thought about it like that before, and how that process of actually seeking forgiveness can be very uplifting and empowering and purifying in our spiritual life, because it does force us to go into a humble state of mind. I also wanted to share one brief reflection, which is I was thinking when you were asking who is somebody who you would seek to forgive, there's a situation going on right now, not very pleasant, and someone has done something very, very bad, very bad. And I've been, for the past few weeks, carrying this frustration in my heart because this is wrong. Like, principles are being violated. This person is clearly, and it's wrong. So, but to see that person as in need for correction, but not project anger and hate towards him, that's very difficult. It's not so easy. I don't think it's wrong for me to feel that this person needs correction. That is, I think, completely valid, because there are people who break values and principles, and they should correct themselves. But then I shouldn't project hate towards this person or anger towards this person, because that doesn't benefit anybody. not him, not me, you know. So I love that you introduced that element also, is that we don't want to be projecting these feelings towards somebody else. So thank you, very thought-provoking presentation. I was listening with rapt attention.
I just say in response, first of all, thank you for those reflections. And also, it's also okay that we're human and we will want to feel, even sometimes it's just like, you need to speak poorly about the person, you need to vent about the person, maybe even like, it's okay to have these feelings. It's just a question of what we decide to do with those feelings. And it's okay if we make mistakes also. And I can see Rachel asked a really nice question, how do we forgive ourselves? And it's just kind of related to what I wanted to say in response to you, Harish, is that we must be forgiving of ourselves. There's just no doubt about it. And so to you, Hari, I just want to say that let's not be hard on ourselves when we're feeling those feelings, and just try to have the presence of mind with the help of a friend or a mentor to try to transcend those feelings and try to work with those feelings so that they become productive. And Rachel, in terms of how do we forgive ourselves, first of all, it's just a beautiful question. I would like to open that up to the group. I'll say something that I think, and Hari or anyone else, if you have any other reflections on this, that would be great. For me, it took a lot of self-coaching, took a lot of coaching from other people. And one of the most powerful reflections that somebody gave me was, if you had to coach someone else out of this situation, what would you say? If you had to coach someone else how to forgive themselves for the thing you're trying to forgive yourself for, what would you say? And that was really powerful, because I'm sure we've all heard, and certainly in the tradition of Bhakti, there's such an emphasis on the difference between the mind and the self. And many traditions agree that you are different from your mind. You are different from your thoughts. And so sometimes the mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And sometimes the mind is the one that's like, you're a horrible person, you shouldn't have done this, and you're not worthy of forgiveness. That is not a divine voice. That is a voice of the mind. So if we treat the mind as a separate entity, how would you deal with a bully if somebody was bullying you? How would you stand up for yourself? How can you ask that bully to be your friend instead? How can you separate yourself and again, give yourself some advice? So for me, that was one of the most powerful exercises somebody asked me to do. But I would love to open it up if anybody else has any kind of insights on forgiving oneself. Any advice for me and anyone else who needs to know or needs some advice on that?
Yeah, and Rachel, feel free to, if you wanted to elaborate on your question, if there's more elements to it that you would like to, share and get more insights on, then feel free to elaborate on your question as well. I was also thinking of an experience I had last year where I was having a hard time forgiving myself because I'd done something that really hurt somebody else. And so I felt really bad about it, and I wish I could just shrink into the earth. And at least for me in that moment, I had to get forgiveness from the person I hurt to begin my own journey of forgiving myself. That was really, really important. And then also what happened afterwards, which was that I made a real resolute determination under the guidance of my mentors to really work on this particular part of my personality that could hurt somebody else. So I think a really powerful way to forgive ourselves is to prove to ourselves that I'm taking the steps necessary to really address this. I'm not going to just let it slide, and an apology alone is not sufficient, but I need to actually transform myself. Yeah. A really nice question, Rachel. Does anybody else have a reflection or a comment or a question they want to pose or share with the group? Laz, go ahead.
So this isn't about the recent question that was asked about how to forgive yourself, but it might relate. So I guess my question is related to when you do have bad people that have, or I won't even say bad people, just people that have done wrong to you, and you feel like you shouldn't have to ask for their forgiveness when they have done something bad to you. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, I don't know if that was very clear, but I don't know. Let's see if you understood what I said.
Yeah, thank you, Les. That's an amazing question. And sometimes that's like the hardest thing is to try to forgive somebody who hasn't asked for forgiveness, right? Somebody who's wronged you and isn't able to, for whatever reason, maybe they don't think they did something wrong, or maybe they just want to walk away. So that's the hardest part. So that's the first part, is that, again, we're making a choice for ourselves. What's the benefit of holding on to that anger and that negativity? And I don't remember who said this, but there's an expression that holding on to anger and to grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, right? So that's the first part. So your question is, how do we handle it when somebody has wronged us and we shouldn't be in the position to ask them for forgiveness? So I think many times that's true, and therefore you don't need to ask for forgiveness. I also think that typically in conflict, not all the time, but often we might have had some role in it. So my personal philosophy is, as long as I can take responsibility for whatever role that I had in this conflict, then I can sleep well at night. I could die knowing that I didn't do wrong by this person. But unfortunately, so it's not necessary that I might have to ask for forgiveness, but reflect, is there something that I did to contribute to this situation? And often that might even disarm the other person and lead to a resolution. And I understand sometimes it's not cool if somebody's really done something wrong and you have to be the first one to be like the higher, the better person. But that's okay. We can put away our egos and do that once in a while. But sometimes, we just can't control how the other person is going to react. And so we might, maybe we've asked for forgiveness. Maybe there's no reason to ask for forgiveness. So then it's a question of your own, mental and emotional and spiritual health. And outside of interacting with that person, it's about letting it go for your own well-being. I feel like my answer was also a little bit scattered, but did that make sense to you, Laz? And would anybody like to add to that?
Yeah, that's actually, I think that's very insightful. It really, really does help with situations I'm dealing with too. So thank you for your answer. I think that was
my pleasure.
Hi, can I share something?
Go for it.
Hi, please. Hi, Sway.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. It was beautiful. I love listening to everything. And I also, like Harry Sean, was like, oh, who do I need forgiveness from? Like that was like really cool, and like that's definitely something that I'm gonna reflect on. But I'm actually gonna kind of talk about what he was just talking about. So I had a lot of abuse growing up from like my father, and I actually went to him and asked him like, why? Because like I wanted to forgive him, and but he told me that he just didn't remember any of those incidents happening, and he just kind of blew me off. And I have actually gone through most of my life living in that victim mentality that you were talking about, and I was filled with a lot of anger, and I hurt other people because of it. Like I would get into fights all the time. I got kicked out of high school. Like I just went around like this really angry individual. And I think the biggest part of healing for me and finding spirituality and finding this group and all of that has been through forgiveness and forgiving him, even though I know that he'll never even like admit that he did anything wrong. And so like for me, like, I have to forgive him because like for one is that like I don't know his experiences that he went through as a child. And so I kind of put myself in that kind of frame of mind of perspective, like what did he go through that he had to inflict so much pain upon me that he must be really hurting as an individual, and he's not even able to heal from it. So I feel even deeper like pain for him. And some people that I've talked to, they don't understand how I could even have compassion towards him, especially the type of abuse that I went through. But like I had to. Like it was killing me, and it was hurting the people that I do love, and that was part of my family and my friends and my relationships and myself. Like, and I had to do a lot of forgiving to myself because of all the shame and all the things that came with that type of abuse. And it's not an easy thing, and it's not an easy thing sometimes to look at in the mirror and see all this ugly, but then realize that that these are just experiences, and the reason that they might have happened to you is because later on in life, maybe now you understand what certain people go through, and now you can be more compassionate and know how to, help other people in situations because you've gone through the same personal pain. And I'm gonna let you guys know, like, honestly, the biggest thing that has helped me so much in this has been letting go, like forgiving him. And sometimes, I can still feel a little bit of that like victim mentality, like roar up in me. And that's where like journaling and meditation and that beautiful mantra actually did recently really help me out. Just calming my mind and finding the peace. So I just, also I'm sharing a lot today, and that's because somebody told me the other day, I always feel like I talk too much. And she said, no, you should share. When you have something to say, you should share it because somebody else might find value in what I'm saying. And I haven't always valued myself. And that's part of the reason is because of holding on to that victim mentality. So that's why I'm able to speak to you guys. And that's why I talk so much. But I love you guys so very much. And thank you again for this talk. It really was special.
Wow. I wish I could give you a massive hug. Thank you so much for sharing. And it is true. What you shared is incredibly inspiring for me, and I'm sure for everybody who's listening. And you're right. You're absolutely right. That's an incredibly difficult thing to try to get out of a victim mentality after having suffered years of abuse from a loved one, from somebody who you trusted. So I just want to say I'm so inspired by you, and I admire also your bravery and your courage to speak about that here today. And yeah, you just have all of my love and well wishes and prayers for healing, and continue to inspire others.
Yes, you always share comments that a lot of people can relate to. I think you speak a lot of things that are universally very applicable, because I think each and every one of us has been through negative experiences in life, and we may be carrying the frustration of like not forgiving someone, hoping for some sort of justice by hating them. It's almost like our hate towards them is like our way of like avenging our vengeance. But I love what you said about how you had to let go of that, because it was a question of, am I going to carry this for the rest of my life against somebody who doesn't even want to acknowledge that they made a mistake? Or am I going to let go and just live my life and be strong and be happy and, love the people around me? So I loved it when you said I had to let go of that, because it's true. Yeah, it's true. Even if someone does something really bad, it's not that by forgiving them we accept that what they did was okay. That's never okay, obviously, but it's a question of our life. Am I going to live with this for the rest of my life? Am I going to let this person who abused me or did something to hurt me in the past continue to hurt me in the future? You know what I'm saying? Because the hurt and the abuse happened in a set period of time, but it's up to us now whether we're going to stretch it out for the rest of our life. Are we going to ruin our life because of what this person did to us? Am I going to ruin every relationship I ever have? So that is a really profound question to each and every one has to ask ourselves, is like, how long do I want this to affect me? And that's really up to us. How long do I want this experience to affect me? Because this person may or may not ever wake up to the reality of what they did. But I'm just speaking from personal experience here. Also, I'm not as brave as you to just spill out the details, but I've definitely carried.
I think that's why, though, Karisham, is because I think I'm much older than most of you on this talk.
I don't know. I'm 35, so I might have.
Are you really? Yeah. I thought you were like a young buck like Adam. He looks like, every time I see him, I'm like, he looks like such a baby.
It's my moisturizer.
I think that's why, I held this inside. I didn't speak about this. I didn't speak about anything for years, and I just shoved it down and shoved everything down, and it's like poison. Like she said, I related when she said that. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it's like. Is poison. All these negative things that you have built up that you're not able to share with other people, and that's one thing that I love about these talks, is because in this other culture, you're actually allowed to share these things. You're allowed to experience these things. You're allowed to be human. You're okay to have these emotions. Where I feel a lot of times growing up and being around the people, they're don't stop crying. I'm going to give you something to cry about, or be quiet or shut up. I hear it even walking through Target. like, you know, for parents telling their children that. And like, my heart like aches a little bit every time I hear somebody say that, you know, like I just want to go give them a hug. But that's why, is because I've been through all these crappy experiences that I'm able to, you know, express these things freely. And I've been trying to teach my children to speak about things that most people don't speak about. Because I find it, the more people speak about the things that they don't speak about is when the healing really starts happening and we can really start living out of our heart space.
Amen. Laz is sending you a lot of love on the chat box. You may want to check out his comments. Does anybody else
I'm horrible at chat.
Oh, okay. Well, he says, I feel that, and he said it was very beautiful, and he wants to thank you for sharing your experience.
I feel like Sway's going to be the next speaker for Thoughtful Thursday. So much to offer.
And she's going to make me cry 10 times the amount of times I've made her cry in the last 6 months. Does anybody else want to share a reflection or just something about their life or some journey, anything they want to bring up and share with the community, or a thought that they heard tonight that they appreciated?
I do want to say it was really, really nice hearing today. I've been struggling a lot with that forgiveness, and I have followed just how you guys have spoken. And so I'm very happy that I have been doing that, to just, you know, it's so funny because you do question yourself. How would you like to be treated if you did something? You know, we're all humans, and you know, and we're the ones that know how long do we want that person to do that to us, or you know, but we don't have to live miserably, and we don't have to be like them. And I've been struggling. I really have. I've been, you know, saying to myself, and you know, when the person speaks for me and ask that, you know, because that's how she comes to my life and ask for forgiveness, and I give it to her, but then she starts treating me like crap. So I get out of her life and I just pray a lot, and I, you know, when she comes back, I try not to be mean, and I try to just be decent, but I don't know where, and I think I'm learning, and I'll figure it out, where I don't need to answer her anymore. And I just feel really bad, and it hurts me because it's like, I could help you, but she don't want my help. And I could tell, because all she wants is, for the moment, when she's feeling like she's gonna jump off the bridge, is when she looks for me. And other than that, she's happy-go-lucky with everything in her life that she's doing. And so she makes me feel some type of way of, you only call when you need me and use me, and it's so nasty, and I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. And I've explained to her as nice as I can that I don't want to be a part of it, but I don't know. At this point, I just pray a lot, and I pray that, you know, that God gets in my mouth to speak to her, because what I have to say is not nice, and I don't want to say what I have to say. And yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you very much for this. Like, I really needed this.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Can I say something about what you just shared? And Radha Bhakti, I would like to hear if you have a comment also on this. Can I say something, Maria?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that it sounds like, this is just without knowing anything about your situation, it sounds like it may be a situation where you might need to draw some healthy boundaries. You know, if this person is influencing your life too much and saying too many things that you don't want to hear, and especially if they're not willing to, you know, recognize. Anyways, part of like the journey is also learning to draw healthy boundaries. There's nothing wrong with that. Without knowing anything about your situation, I'm just making a general comment here. Radha Bhakti, you have something you wanna say something with your wise words of wisdom?
Well, you know, it's funny because I was going to start off by saying I don't have anything wise or profound to say, except that I just want to tell you that everything that you said, it feels very relatable to me. And I feel like I've been through really incredibly similar situations where, I just related to everything that you said. And all I can tell you is that now in retrospect, I can see that like those experiences, they did help me to be able to draw boundaries. And also, I hate to be so cliche, but they did end up being character building for me. And it also put me into a position of greater empathy for others going through similar situations, right? And the last thing I'll say, this is, again, nothing totally wise or profound, but just really practical from my experience, that I don't know, the older I got, the less I invested in those relationships where I felt like the energy was depleting me instead of filling, right? And it's okay. It's really hard for many people to do that, to just be able to let go, that maybe there's some like karmic debt or just otherwise debt. For some reason, it's hard to let go, but it's all right to do that, even if that person doesn't react well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. You're awesome. And please keep your eyes on the road.
You are awesome.
Keep your eyes on the road. Keep your eyes on the road. Okay, there's a comment here from Teresa. She says, this was my first time here. So amazing. I will try to continue tuning in every week. Everyone's input has been so inspiring. Everyone spoke straight facts. Yeah, this is what we're all about here, because we're all about the truth here at Thoughtful Thursdays, you know, because that's what matters and that's what helps. There's no need to pretend to be somebody else than who we are. Great. I think we're, unless anybody has a comment or a question. Okay, Emily says, love what you said about self-righteousness. I think it's probably the #1 thing I struggle with, because I love to think of myself as good. It's so sneaky and hard to detect. I have a comment on this, Emily, and I want to hear if Radha Bhakti has something she wants to say as well, but a real quick comment. But they did a study actually amongst university students. And let's see if I can explain it correctly. They took a group of 50 university students and said, here's fictional $5. How much of this would you give to charity? How much would you give to your friends? How much would you keep for yourself? So when they took these 50 students and gave them this fictional $5, then it turns out that about, you know, like on average, people would give away about $2.40, something like that. Then they took a group of 50 students and gave them actual $5 and said, here are these boxes, and put money like in charity, yourself, your friends. How much of this would you give away? And when people actually had to give the money away, the average was only about 70 cents per person, something like that, you know? So I don't know if you follow this study, but the point is, we do carry ourselves in our self-image of like, yeah, I'm a good person, I'm kind, I'm generous. And I think most of you are kind and generous and good people, don't get me wrong. But sometimes our self-image may be a little bit bigger than our real reality. When we're put in the situation, we may not always be so generous. So I like your comment very much. Radha Bhakti, something you want to add to that?
Just that I also really appreciate that comment and also relate to that. And so the only thing I can say is that, you know, having thought like that for myself as well, it's really nice to have relationships where people are willing to sort of be our mirrors. They often say like marriage is like, or relationships are just like the best mirror to you, because, you know, you're so close to that person and your faults and everything will be exposed. So I would just say, you know, let's try to be as open as we can to receiving those mirrors, and, you know, just always working on being better. But you say, I love to think of myself as good. It's because you are good for real. I'm not just saying that everybody on this call is good, like Harry said. But yeah, there's always things that we can try to be better about. And so it's nice to just try to cultivate that humility and let people be open to it. And it's always going to be exposed in relationships, whether it's a friend or a partner or a sibling or whomever. That's where we'll know what we need to work on.
Thank you so much for tonight, for your presentation and the stories you shared. Thank you, everyone, for your reflections, for listening. Very grateful for this community. With that, we will wish you all a good night. I'll see some of you for the book clubs this weekend and the retreat. Actually, no book clubs this weekend. Yeah, no book clubs this weekend because of the retreat. So I'll see some of you at the retreat, and hopefully I'll see all of you again next week, Thursday, for Thoughtful Thursday. So have a great night, and be wise, be happy, be well.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, Bridget. Okay, hold on before let me turn off.